It's increasingly common to explain human experience by referring to neurotransmitters such as dopamine, brain parts, and brain functions. Can you speak to this?
I can, and I'll be happy to. So, and this obviously refers to the title, and it's increasingly bothersome to me in general, not just about dopamine, but how much the word brain has replaced the word for mind in common speech. That, oh, the angry brain. There's a book, I think, written with something like that in the title. But if you start paying attention, often we now use the word brain when 20 years ago it would have been common to say mind. And I think it's actually reductionistic to look at these as just brain functions. Now, obviously, dopamine, for example, talking about pleasure, dopamine is associated, but there's the key word, it's associated with the experience of pleasure. But these neurotransmitters are messengers, and they're not the pleasure itself. Now, if you find ways to amp up the experience of dopamine, yeah, they'll experience more pleasure, but that doesn't mean that pleasure is downstream from dopamine. I'd say that it's more appropriate to see them that they're co-occurring, or sometimes the dopamine itself is just a message that the body, and I specifically mention the body, that the body is experiencing pleasure. And so, as you've seen, if you've been, following us and NARM in general for a while, you know that a very strong orientation of mine and NARM has been to avoid reducing people to overly simplistic kinds of dynamics, such as brain parts, neurotransmitters, personal history, conditioning. I've talked about these things before, so I won't go on and on about it. But it's important that we remember that it's human beings that are experiencing pleasure, and the various aspects of the brain are communicating that, are part of the communication process, but they're not the pleasure itself. It's just like the map is not the territory, and the message here, or the messenger, is not the message.
I'm also reminded of how sometimes we talk about the individuals as nervous systems as well. We can reduce the complexity of our human experience through any sort of lens
Yeah.
here. And one thing I do love about NARM is that we hold that complexity as we treat the individual in front of us.